Tonight, the TBI is looking into an alleged money for license scheme.
It started after News Channel 5 investigates discovered dozens of immigrants had bought state cosmetology licenses. That means those folks were working in salons without the required training or experience, which some say is dangerous. Now, the former head of the Cosmetology Board says she tried to warn the state about the problems she first discovered back in 2011. But she told the consumer investigator Jennifer Krause she couldn't get anyone at the state's Commerce and Insurance Department to listen.
I just knew something was wrong. Something was wrong.
Beverly Waller says she tried to sound the alarm more than a year and a half ago.
Why would they not want to investigate?
I have no idea why.
Now Waller says she no longer goes to nail salons because she believes there are manicurists working with state licenses who do not have the training or experience they need to do nails safely.
You don't trust the licensing process anymore?
No.
Waller was director of the state's Cosmetology Board in 2011 when she says she discovered license applications and files were missing and found applications that did not qualify for licenses hidden under an employee's desk.
I told my supervisor that basically an investigation should be opened to determine if someone in the board office was issuing license with fraudulent documentation and being paid for it.
In our analysis.
But Waller says instead of launching an investigation, her boss, Bill Giannini, simply suggested that she move the employee to another position. Steve Myshak, the deputy commissioner at Commerce and Insurance, says the department did all it could.
It's real easy to level allegations and say, well, I believe this is happening, but you do need, in fact, evidence.
But Waller felt an investigation was the only way to get that evidence and says she kept pushing Giannini to investigate after the same employee was caught using the computer of the person who approves licenses.
You went back another time?
Yes. Oh, yes.
How many times did you go back?
4 to 5 times.
Saying you were concerned.
Yes.
There was a problem.
Yes.
And
Nothing happened.
she went to her supervisor and asked him repeatedly to open an investigation.
I don't believe that is correct, and I don't believe the record over the totality would demonstrate that.
But this email confirms Waller had been giving documentation to Commerce and Insurance managers to support her suspicions for several months. She finally urged, please advise, this is serious. Giannini responded in the email by apologizing and admitting Waller's requested investigation had been delayed by me inadvertently.
Do you believe someone in this office was selling licenses?
You know, obviously we had an issue with licensing the office.
But the state now insists it didn't know anyone might be selling licenses.
How much did you pay?
Until this hearing in February of this year, when more than 36 Vietnamese immigrants told regulators they'd bought their licenses from Green Hills salon owner Lee Phan for thousands of dollars each.
The only time that something has come up where somebody says they've purchased anything was in the hearing that you attended.
That's not true. That is not true.
In fact, a Cosmetology Board inspector wrote last summer that he suspected someone of using a license that had been purchased. And Beverly Waller says her office got several tips like this one last summer, with the names of people who had allegedly bought licenses. And tips, she says, about who allegedly was selling the licenses.
Yes, it was a Vietnamese gentleman that had a salon in the Green Hills area.
They were that specific?
Yes. Oh, yes.
And you passed that information along to your supervisors?
Oh, yes.
But Myshak maintains the higher-ups at Commerce and Insurance were not aware of any of that. The Commerce and Insurance Department finally finished its internal audit last summer and afterwards began taking steps to revoke the licenses from these manicurists who admitted they'd bought them. The state also fired Beverly Waller. She believes it's because she'd pushed for answers.
So they held you responsible?
Yes, I was held responsible.
The state says it simply decided to go in another direction.
You know, the department is taking great pains not to scapegoat anybody into thing. It was a situation that we took very seriously, and we took a great deal of effort and time to untangle what was very complicated, in much part because the records of the board were not in very good shape.
Waller, meanwhile, says she's glad the TBI is now taking another look at the case. Yet the fact that it took more than a year and a half to get to this point, she believes, was a big mistake.
Was this putting the public in danger?
Yes, it was, and it is.
Now, at this point, the state is still not sure how many manicurists are out there working with licenses they bought under the table. In addition to the 3 dozen they initially found, I've now been told they've discovered another 30 or so more, and they are still going through their files. So, Vicki, there could be more.
So how do you know if the person doing your nails is qualified, Jennifer?
Good question. I mean, you can start by making sure they have a state license, and the state says it is doing all it can now to make sure everyone who has a license is qualified. But as you heard Beverly Waller say, she is just not convinced that it is safe just yet.
Wow.